Welcome, everybody. This is the school committee, Portsmouth School Department School Committee meeting of Tuesday, November 17th. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for our troops in harm's way? And you see the flag on the screen. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, I'd like to report that we had an executive session prior to this meeting. No votes were taken. May I have a motion to seal the minutes, please?
So moved.
Second.
We need to do a roll call vote because we are on Zoom. Mr. Shears?
Aye.
Mr. Ferber?
Aye.
Mr. Vadney?
Aye.
Ms. McDade?
Aye.
Mr. Piero?
Aye.
Emily Copeland? Aye. Motion carries unanimous. Please let the roll call reflect that everyone is present. For the chairperson's remarks tonight, just like to take a moment and remember Kathy Melvin. For those of you who have been around the district for a while, you probably remember her as a regular fixture at school committee meetings and town council meetings. She ran and was elected to the school committee in 1980 and ran again in 84, and she recently passed away. So just would like to take a moment to recognize, all the work that she did, and she really worked on behalf of kids, and her heart was really in the right place. So just wanted to say thank you and send condolences to her family. Elections update. So the election is going to be certified at the end of November in Rhode Island. And according to our town charter and our school committee policy, once the election is certified, the swearing in of newly elected or re-elected members will take place. And that will happen on December 7th, virtually via the town council. And then the first meeting in December, which will be our December 25th meeting, will be the organizational meeting. I'm just going to jump ahead here and talk about letter F2, because that kind of is important for our elections update. So prior to the election, the town council set out a procedure to fill the vacancy on the school committee and had applicants submit letters of interest as of last Friday. And there were 4 applicants that submitted a letter of interest. And so the town council will now, at their Monday meeting, interview those candidates and hopefully appoint one of them to fill the 2-year vacancy. So then that candidate can be sworn in on the 7th and join us for their first meeting on December 15th. So very excited to have that happen. We invited those candidates to attend this meeting if they were able. I do want to warn them that it looks like they're going to have a long school committee meeting on the 23rd. So we're trying to get them to do the school committee appointment first. So stay tuned for that, I guess. And the last little bit of election news is the changes to the town charter. We had several items that were up for approval by the voters. About a year and a half ago, the school committee met, reviewed the town charter as it related to the school committee, and then voted to approve amendments. Superintendent Riley and I, at the time, then presented to the town charter review committee, They accepted our recommendations, and the town council accepted the recommendations, and now the voters have accepted the recommendations. So now it's going to be up to the policy subcommittee, Ms. McDade, to make sure that we implement those town charter changes into our policies. But they were all passed, and thank you to the voters for doing that. So then the last item, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Ferber here. I was unable to attend the last REASC committee chairs meeting, and he attended that. So Mr. Ferber, would you like to give a report on the REASC meeting?
Sure. I'll try to keep this to a minimum. I sent everybody on the school committee a copy of the PowerPoint presentation that Rhode presented. And there were about 18 people in attendance. I would say 7 or 8 of them were from Rhode, and along with Tim Duffy and Judy Spermuli. But the purpose of the presentation was to show how districts and schools were going to be measured going forward on academic achievement and being awarded the stars on the 5-star system. So there's a lot of data in those slides, but the highlights I thought were that they looked at the states of Connecticut, Georgia, I'm not sure why Georgia, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Texas, and gathered information from those districts. And they put together a metric system, which includes state metrics, student achievement, student growth, high school completion, graduation rates, chronic absenteeism, ELL student progress, advanced coursework completion, financial health, fiscal operations, or rather operations as a separate category, governance, personnel, and other arts, or other categories rather, such as arts and fitness. And then they use the metrics that they've gathered, I guess, from the review of these other school districts and our own state data. And that's how the schools are going to be measured. And schools, it's the schools independently and the district as a whole that will be measured. And in that presentation that I gave everybody, there's a slide that speaks to the district accountability report card and how each of the stars are achieved in terms of the point system. So it's certainly going to be difficult for schools to achieve the 5-star rating, and the district as a whole to achieve this 5-star rating. And the district, it's not only our regular students that have to show the signs of improvement that lead to the award of these stars. It's also subgroups such as special ed and the out of district placements, or out of what do they call it? Yeah, out of district students are factored in as well. I know our administrative staff, I'm sure they're familiar with this system. So if I'm a little unclear about something here, maybe you can chime in.
An excellent job, Mr. Ferber.
I'm doing a good job. Thank you.
It's new to us as well. We received the same presentation right around the same time. So
okay, and they ran through the presentation and left about 10 minutes for questions. Let's see what else. So we have to, all of the districts have to accomplish a 3-year strategic plan in accordance with the measurements that they intend to use, and that's at the school and district level, and then seek to achieve those improvements, and then Rhode will provide their database of information and sort of measure the schools and the districts in their achievement with respect to the goals that they've established, and then evaluate the results, the implications of the results, and how to help the school districts improve. And I'm trying to think. Those are the major points. And then a couple of the questions that were asked were, one person was concerned that COVID may be used to mask reports right now regarding the true performance. But Rhode insisted that they're aware of that, and they know how to compensate for that. So, and then another question was asked about how do we help those kids with the with inadequate access to online Wi-Fi, and they didn't really have a good answer for that, but they used I think it was Providence as a pilot, so they're in cooperation with Ocean. They're trying to develop more hotspots by putting up antennas. And then after they succeed with Providence, they'll move on to some of the other larger districts. Portsmouth would be way down the line, and probably Newport as well. Let's see if I missed anything else. That was pretty much it. The one question I wanted to ask, if you are fortunate enough as a school district to meet the 5-star category, what do you do next? Because I don't think we have to worry about that for a while, but hopefully we'll get to the 5-star rating. And then how do you keep your 5 stars? Because you got to show improvement every year. And I'm just not sure. I didn't get the chance to ask that question, but they probably weren't too worried about it right now either. There are 5 pilot districts that they're starting with. They might have mentioned the districts, but they were speaking at a clip that I wasn't able to capture that. That's pretty much the summary. And the rest of it you have in the slide presentation.
Thank you.
Did I do a good job, Tom?
You did. Excellent.
Really did, Fred.
Yeah, and this is really just all we had moved to the star rating and the accountability system changes a few years ago, but because last year we didn't have the state, we don't have the assessment results.
Right.
The RICAS or the PSAT, SAT. So, but the accountability measures are still in place from, the federal government. So this may just be a 1-year change. If we stay on track and we're able to have our state assessments this year, then they may be able to switch back to the older system, the previous system.
So this is not intended to be a permanent system. It's just an interim because of COVID.
Yeah, this is, really, we just went through a whole major overhaul of the state accountability system a couple of years ago. But they had to figure out other measures to be able to use because they don't have, that system was the old previous system was heavily based on the state assessments. So they're trying to figure out every other measure that they can reasonably use here.
Are we worried about it?
Again, it's tough. I mean, at least when, we this time of year, we would have all of our assessment results, and we would at least kind of have an idea of how we did there. And then, usually January-ish, we get the accountability results. So, other than, we're going to get the report out from the high school team later tonight on advanced placement results. But other than that, and the access testing for English language learners, those were the only assessments that ran last year.
And what Rhode said they're going to be doing is they weren't going to be sharing publicly the rating, but they're going to be taking our past scores and giving us that district rating and sharing it with us privately so that we can start looking at it and having discussions about where we stand as a district. And I think that this is kind of evolving. So the conversation is around whether or not they want to have, that accountability piece be specific to schools or bringing the schools together to give the district one rating. I felt like the presentation was very interesting, and if we're able to get into some sort of pilot, I had said to Tom that I would be interested in participating because I feel like we're in a good spot as far as our scores looked, and I'm confident that I'm not seeing us getting a 5 rating right away, but I certainly feel like we have a good chance of falling into that 4 category. So just being able to work through that and developing, we have a really strong strategic plan as well. So I feel like that all plays a part into it. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. Once we get more information, Tom and I had discussed being able to present it, especially if they give us that private rating.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Fred. Thank you so much for attending that meeting. Moving on to subcommittee updates. We don't really report out on negotiations because that's an executive session. There was a meeting of the negotiations committee, but no report on that. Personnel subcommittee. That was the previous meeting, wasn't it?
I think so.
I don't think it was this meeting.
I thought.
Sorry, folks. We're just.
I know, yeah. Well, it's because it's been so long between meetings. Right now, it actually, because our last meeting was on October 27th, and the Personnel Subcommittee meeting was on November 4th.
November 4th, right. Okay, so then the Personnel Subcommittee meeting met and, oh, I know what it was. This was about the.
I can help if you need.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I'm now remembering here. It was more talking about the upcoming contract renewals that would need to be taking place this year. And then the real suggestion was last year we had discussed briefly, did we want to switch the form that we were using for the superintendent evaluation? And the subcommittee recommended, particularly this year, just staying with the old system, but passing that information, the various options on to the other committee members to take a look at for potentially using in the following year, and also elaborating a little bit more on this year. So those were the two main items. No votes were taken. Or there was a vote to keep the same system.
Keep the same evaluation
Yes.
tool. Yep.
Yeah, but since it was no change, it didn't come before the full committee. Sorry about that. Okay, public comment would anybody like to make a public comment? This is the point where people could, if they wanted. We give everybody a few minutes, but I'm not seeing any hands being raised.
No hands, no chat.
Nothing in the chat.
Okay.
No,
All right.
nothing in the chat, and it's open right now for the public.
Okay, so seeing no public comment, we'll move on to our PHS Liaison Report. And I see that we have both Iceland and Rhode in here tonight, so we can unmute them and hear what's going on at the high school. There we go. I see. All right.
So currently we are in the middle of our Patriot Week, which was our attempt at trying to unify the school and the students. So the Patriot Week it started off with a blood drive that we had yesterday. And during the week, we are having dress up days. So we have a dress up day for every day. And we are also running a food drive.
Additionally, every year the PHS Student Council creates Thanksgiving food baskets for families in need. So the Student Council is working on that this week, and they'll be delivered to families later as in Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So typically when we deliver these baskets, they're accompanied by a pie, but because of the pandemic, we can't really bake pies and give them to people. So instead, we're providing people, along with a typical food basket, recipe cards, and the ingredients sorted out for each of the pies that we would normally give them.
Good idea. Does that, okay, that concludes your report. All right, great. Thank you very much, ladies. Appreciate it. Yes, applause there. And also, I think both the women's and men's cross-country teams did very well at state. It was in the paper, I think, right? So shout out to them as well. All right, superintendent's update, Dr. Kenworthy.
Thank you, Dr. Copeland. Good evening, everyone. So first up for me is a personnel update, just since our last school committee meeting. So at the last meeting, I announced a couple of resignations for people who had to leave the district for personal reasons. So these first few new staff members that I'm going to read off are in response to filling the vacancies. So one was for one of our speech language pathologist positions, and Amy Hart, who had been a 0.5 or half time for us in the role previously, was able to move into a 1.0 position there. And with to fill the part-time position, then we welcomed Lauren Burris Benavides to the district. And the other resignation we had was for a special education teacher at Melville. And we welcomed Samantha Dupre since the last meeting. All of those positions are actually at Melville School. On the non-certified side, we had one paraprofessional position that we filled. Shanique Pimentel recently joined the district. And we've had our first retirement announcement. We'll probably might see a few more of these as we approach. There is a deadline in the contract for these for a retirement incentive. So Christine Volofecto, the school nurse teacher at Hathaway School, has put in for her retirement. Okay, next item I had, I just wanted to provide an update. We had talked at the last meeting about forming an ad hoc or temporary transportation committee. So our contract with our district transportation provider is expiring at the end of this school year. We're going to need to go out to bid to solicit new, proposals on a contract. And it's been a few years since we've done something like this. So we wanted to bring a committee together of various stakeholders and just kind of, help us just kind of finalize the RFP or request for proposal that will go out for those bids. But also we have a few transportation policies that it's been a number of years since we reviewed. So before they make their way to the policy subcommittee, we'll probably use this group for that. So we have the participants identified at this point, and we are just working to finalize our first meeting. So by the next school committee meeting, I should have an update there. And last thing for me are just some district updates. So yesterday was another of our statewide professional development days, which are also distance learning days for students. So they're able to count within the 180 day school year. But while students participated in distance learning activities that teachers designed, our staff did participate in professional learning. So one of the highlights was we launched the first of what's going to be a 4-part series in our racial equity and social justice training for staff. This is connects to the subcommittee that we formed on racial equity and social justice. So Mr. Piero is the chair. Co-chair is Mrs. Viveros, and I know they've been working hard, meeting. Several others of us have joined a few meetings here or there, but we've got a dedicated group. They've already done a lot of good work for us. And one of the things that they did was identified the trainer that we're using for this series. So we had the first of those sessions yesterday. Marco Williams, a highly respected local leader in the areas of racial equity and social justice, kind of kicked that training off for us. And already, I know myself, Mrs. Viveros, have received a lot of positive emails and comments from staff on the first session. So we're looking forward to the rest of those. So we continue to see cases in our district. So we have the COVID-19 dashboard that we update as cases occur. So currently, we've had 17 total cases among students and staff, and currently we have 7 active cases. So most of those individuals have since returned, and for the 17 cases that we have, including anybody who may have been quarantined as a close contact. However, we do have 7 active cases with the individuals out, and a number of either staff or student close contacts connected to those cases. One of the other developments since the last meeting, the Rhode Island Department of Health, it's no surprise, I think, to anyone, and you've probably seen news reports, is really starting to get overwhelmed with the number of cases throughout the state. They've been a great partner for us. They're definitely still the leader when it comes to COVID efforts in the state, but they had set up some separate mechanisms for K-12 districts, and one of the things is that several of us are getting unfortunately too good at the contact tracing part of this, and identifying who some of those contacts may be. So the Department of Health has asked districts to take more of an active role in the beginning stages of the contact tracing process. So you may have seen some news reports to that effect. I have to say it's not a huge change for us. It is, again, one of the advantages of district our size is that we had already kind of been operating that way, and I think so far we've been able to manage with the number of cases that we've had. I think it is a different story for some of the larger districts around the state, whose case count is, quite larger than ours as well. So again, we're just continuing with the procedures that we have in place. And once we have all the information, we turn it over to the Department of Health. Our first initial steps often will include, we may have to ask either sometimes it's a classroom or a group of students or some staff members to either distance learn or work from home until the Department of Health is able to make a final determination on the close contacts. Again, just a huge thanks to my core team here of Mrs. Viveros, Dr. Colwell, Mrs. Lynn Varnes, our school nurse supervisor, Mrs. Kim McGuire, our new human resources director, has become, anytime a staff member is involved in that discussion, is a big part, and just our school principals and school nurse, all of our school nurses as well are really helping in those efforts. So one of the other things, we're getting ready to transition to the second quarter marking period, and you've heard me discuss at a few of our past meetings. A couple of things will be happening here. So this is the time that families in the upper grades, the kind of the secondary 7 through 12 grade range, could request a change to their learning preference, if you will, be it either following our in-person and hybrid model or full distance learning. So we did have some families kind of request a change in either direction, and I know Mrs. Viveros is kind of compiling all that information, and I'm sure we'll have a report out on where our numbers stand in one of our next meetings. Also with that, for the families who are choosing the in-person, hybrid learning model for their students, we've been looking at ways that we could increase that in-person learning time. We've worked, I know our administrative teams at Portsmouth Middle School and Portsmouth High School have worked hard with their staffs, included input from students and families as well. And so what we've settled on for the second quarter as we make this transition is that at Portsmouth Middle School, so on Mondays, which had been fully virtual for 7th and 8th grade students, each of those grades is going to alternate. So on one Monday, if you will, 7th grade will be in an additional day. The following week, 8th grade will be in. They have a schedule that they've laid out, and we'll be communicating that with families. And then at Portsmouth High School, they're going to keep the virtual Monday to become an important part of their routines and some of the work that they're able to do through our MTSS program particularly. So there is going to be a revised schedule for what they call that day their flex day. And then at PHS, they'll look in the Tuesday through Friday, alternating cohort days. They'll just look for more opportunities to bring students back in person every day who could benefit. Again, we have to make sure we do all that within the health and safety guidelines that we have, the 6-foot spacing and everything that we have to adhere to. So again, all that information, I've communicated it out. I know in my most recent update, I know the schools are working there to communicate out to their students and families. As Dr. Copeland mentioned earlier, the PHS fall athletic season is wrapping up. So for us, that was cross country, both boys and girls, and boys and girls soccer. Again, all of our teams, I think, had very good seasons, but at this point, they've all wrapped up. And we have not received final word yet on what the winter athletic season will look like, either at the middle or high school level. So at the middle school level, you may recall, they did not do anything in the fall through their athletic association. High school, there was limited sports that were able to participate. And so we're awaiting final word from both of those groups with final say, I'm sure, from the governor and the Department of Health on what the winter season may look like. Last thing for me is just a reminder, next week, we're rolling into the Thanksgiving holiday week. So school or in learning, if you will be in session on Monday and Tuesday, according to the schedules in all of our schools. But starting on Wednesday, schools are closed through the weekend for the Thanksgiving holiday. And as the holiday season has been approaching, we have been reminding our families, again, on the advisement from the Department of Health against non-essential travel, particularly international travel or to states with a greater than 5% infection rate. We realize that some families may need to travel and it may have already been included in their high school plan. So they just need to be aware that if that travel includes one of those states or international travel, then we do need to follow upon their return the 14-day quarantine as recommended from the Department of Health for students. And students will obviously be able to distance learn during that time. So that is everything for my updates.
Steve, Emily needs to be.
Oh,
Unmuted. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
1
Sorry,
second.
folks, I do the work meeting procedure where when I'm done talking, I mute myself and I forget I don't have the.
you're making me really
ability to
nervous there
unmute
because I thought you might have been saying that I was muted that whole time because I.
No, you were
done
muted. You were
that
good.
as well.
No, I just reflexively muted myself. So, okay, thank you, Dr. Kenworthy. Appreciate that. Any questions from the committee? No? All right. Moving on to teaching and learning, Assistant Superintendent Viveros.
Yes, actually, today we're going to be having a presentation from our high school. Paige Kerwin-Clare is going to be presenting on AP. Is that the piece of the agenda that we're at now, Dr. Kenworthy?
Yes.
Yep. So if we can.
Can you also, good evening, everyone. Can you also please unmute Mr. Amaral? He's going to be jumping in too.
Sure. Do you have a slideshow?
Yeah, I have my folder open, Steve. If you want to give me sharing access, I could just open.
Yeah. You can run that, or if Paige wants to run it, I can give her host. Let me just give you rights.
I have it on my other screen, so.
Gotcha. So
That would be much easier.
All right, Tom, you should have that.
Well, while we're doing that, I just want to share with you that, members of the school committee, the public, and who are interested, this is really good news that we're about to present. We talked, Mr. Farber mentioned earlier that how we're going to get to a 5-star school. I think the beginnings are by looking at each student and trying to make them 5-star students. And to do that, the most important part is to look at data and to see where our trends are, where we need to improve, and where we need to put our energies in. And this report really shows a lot of work that has gone into improving rigor and streamlining some of the opportunities for students, not only to take college level courses, but also be competitive with students across the nation in terms of preparedness for college and career. So it's with great pleasure I bring to our assistant our associate principal, Paige Kerwin-Clare.
Wow, that was quite a promotion.
I know, it was a great promotion. Paige Kerwin-Clare, who's in charge of curriculum and instruction, who will share with you and guide you through some of the results of our data dig in terms of student performance. Paige?
So as it's been said earlier, it's a little bit of a shift from the typical data presentation we would do because of some of the changes we had in the standardized testing last spring. So we'll do some focus on the AP, but then sort of share with you some of the growth that we've made with both of our EEP and CTE programs, which I think does have an impact on our AP enrollment as well. So Tom, are you going to be moving the slide?
I can. Yep, you just let me know.
That's great.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay.
So this is sort of an overview of the last 3 years of, and it's a real simple view of how many students are taking how many exams and then their scores of 3 and above. So when we're looking at the scores are done, the AP scores are done 1 through 5, with the score of 3 being the typical predictor of acceptance from a college level to count as credits for college level. So when we look at this, so if you're looking at it from 2019 to 2020, while we have less students, taking multiple exams, which is great. But I think that we also have to take into account here some of the shifts from last year, that being a change in the policy where we went from encouraging students to take the exam, which is our current policy, where previously it was an expectation. So I think we have to look at that, but also look at the students that are taking these exams really want to be taking them and want them to count towards their potentially as college level credits. But I think that when you're looking at this, we also have to take into account the growth of our CTE programs, our career and technical education programs, as well as our increase in opportunities for students to take the EEP courses. So that's a little bit of a shift where that's, and we'll focus on that moving forward. I know that wasn't really the focus of this, but I think it's important to look at them in conjunction with one another because while this may look like it's not growing as much as far as the amount of students, Mr. Amaral pointed out earlier that 90% of our seniors have taken at least one AP course or involved in an EP course or a CTE program. So that's a pretty significant number.
And if you look at this chart, you'll still notice that in May of 2020, the number of students that scored a 3+ actually went up significantly to 258. So I think the quality of instruction through our professional development program for AP teachers has gotten better. And I also think that students are really taking advantage of the opportunity to work harder to make sure that they're doing better on their tests. So it's a combination of both professional development for teachers, taking advantage of all the opportunities that College Board has to offer, and also more students, I believe, really focusing on doing their best on these exams.
So if you're looking at 2018, we have, just for perspective, 68% of the students who took the test earned a score of 3 or higher, where in 2019, we were at 65%, and then a really large jump up to 77% last year. So that's a pretty significant jump in scores that have the potential of earning college level credit. Dr. Kimberly, thank you. So this is an overall chart that shows, again, what the mean score is out of 1 through 5, the students enrolled in the program, and then the courses that we offer. And I just want to say that I'm really proud to share some of this great news with you, because I think from last spring, despite the challenges of COVID and virtual learning and subsequent issues with connectivity and exam submission for our students and teachers really persevered with some pretty commendable results. So I'm going to highlight only the positive results because that's what we're here for. So when you're looking at something like, for instance, biology. So the mean score for this year was 3.56, and that's up from 3.47 the previous year. A really significant jump for me is the chemistry, which was at 2.81 in 2019, up to 3.25. So there's a lot of these jumps that may not look big when you're looking just at the mean score, but when you're looking at students' individual scores, as evidenced by the large jump in students who achieved a 3 or higher, we're noticing that in these courses, and again, attributed to what Mr. Amaral was saying, we really have been focusing on instructional focus groups with AP teachers and accessing cohorts throughout the state who are also teaching these courses to find out how they're meeting with success. And some of this is really focusing on how College Board itself has improved its practices by making collaborative teachers across the nation. So they're offering a lot of resources for students and teachers. And I feel like they've really stepped it up with COVID so that students have access to all the same resources and curriculum that they would as if they were in complete in-person learning. So I think that's pretty significant. As far as the European history was one that we really focused on last year because we have a large number of sophomores who take that course. And in 2019, we were, the mean score was 2.92, and that's jumped up to 3.13. So I think that's a pretty significant jump. And that's absolutely attributed to the hard work of the social studies department who've really been focusing on their scores. Dr. Kimberly, thank you. This is again, the remainder of the courses that we currently offer. And again, just a couple of highlights there. So the Physics C Mechanics was a 3.44 in 2019. So that's a really large jump. Statistics was another one where it's a very large number of students who take statistics. So while we're almost at the 3.0, it's still up from 2.24 in 2019. And then again, with the addition of US Government and Politics, which is just a relatively new course to us, in 2019, that was 2.14 and it jumped up to 3.14. So we are seeing some significant growth. I will say that there was a couple drops in areas that didn't give me too much of a surprise because I feel like with some of the changes and challenges through COVID, particularly some of the hands-on art courses, I think may have suffered a bit with not having the opportunity to focus on all the resources that they would use in course for their hands-on projects.
I also want to say that one of the areas that I think we're really impressed with is the physics courses. That's probably nationally one of the more difficult courses to pass. And looking at our students from that pool of candidates, we had at least 2 candidates that did very well and ended up going to Ivy League schools. But it's the focus that that physics provides in a platform for students to go and get opportunities to get into the colleges of choice. That is, the score on those exams are very, very powerful.
Thank you, Dr. Kenworthy. So we've talked about this in the past, but we've watched tremendous growth over the last couple of years with our early enrollment program. One of the newest courses is the college composition course, which I'm really excited about. It's a URI course for writing to inform and explain. And for our new course, we currently have 21 students enrolled in that course. This is the first year that we've offered it. In addition, there's been a lot of growth in the math department with financial algebra and college algebra as opportunities to offer those. Students may take them as an EEP course or a traditional course. But you can see again here the tremendous growth from 2019 to in 2020 with 209 students up to 285 students last year. So that's just one thing that we wanted to highlight because I think that it's important when we're looking at AP, we have to look at all opportunities that we're providing for students. And I think this program has proven to be a tremendous attribute for the students.
Last year we came to you and you said, you know, we took the recommendation from the math department and trying to really bolster up the financial algebra program. We had a traditional financial algebra program throughout the school, but we felt the students need to be pushed a little bit more. So we went with Jeff Rose, who is our department head, and Paige solicited Southern Maine Community College to be able to give students a ramped up curriculum for those students that wanted to push themselves a little higher. And they also have the opportunity to gain credit for the EEP credit for those courses. And I think what Paige is saying too is that, you know, we can't just rely on AP because AP does not address all courses, where we're trying to hedge our bets for students to be able to get EEP credits through Community College of Rhode Island, URI, Southern Maine Community College, and also be able to get AP credits through standard curriculum through College Board. So it's good to have both. And in both cases, not only the students getting college credit, but we have more students participating, as evidenced by the number of students that are involved. We have 285 students this year as compared to our 209. And I believe for EEP programs, this is a record high number of students that are involved in these type of courses.
I think that actually we really need to commend our teachers on that as well, since they have to do a lot of additional training and make sure that they're certified in those areas in order to teach those courses. And every time they've stepped up and done a lot of reaching out to the community colleges and URI, as well as the college in Maine, so that we could get these courses up and running. So
yeah, as you know, they need to have a master's degree in order to be able to teach the EEP courses, and they have to be certified by each college as an adjunct professor for the purposes of teaching students within the high school.
And then this is really just a highlight again of the CTE programs that continue to grow. Diane Grice has been a tremendous attribute in getting these programs up and running. We're seeing this. I just kind of wanted to look at where we were with our total enrollment in comparison with our out of district enrollment. And then where were we really growing the programs, because we've spoken with Ms. Viveros and Diane Crease and myself and several others who have worked to create a plan to continue to promote these programs, not only in our own school, but throughout the area, through different things like promoting student videos and open houses. And I think that's one thing that we can look towards now, where it may have been really non-traditional in the past to use the virtual format to promote these programs. And I think that's become the norm, and we can do it in a really skillful way. But when you're looking at, for us, I think we can look at, so, you know, the huge amount of students in the Academy for Education and Child Development, and then where some other struggles, some other programs may not be as strong right now, what can we do to promote those programs? So we're continuously.
I'm really
looking
happy
at,
that even though we have 86 kids in Academy for Engineering and Design, I know even during Dr. Kenworthy's time as Assistant Superintendent, he constantly championed putting more resources and time into that program. And now it's starting to bear fruit in terms of the number of kids that really go into a highly sought after field that will propel them to go to really find colleges, universities, and become engineers in some sort. We have numerous kids already in last year and even this year looking to go to WPI, Rensselaer, other engineering schools that are really going to make them marketable for really good, high-paying jobs. And that's, I think, what part of the purpose of the CTE program. It's not just to offer programs, but also to offer programs that are going to provide straightforward access or accelerated access to really good careers.
And this is just an overview for you with the changes that we've had in our standardized testing. So to kind of give you an outline of where we are with the testing for this year, in particular with what happened last year. So our freshmen took the PSAT 9 in November of this year. And then the sophomores will take the PSAT 10 digital, actually on the same day that the seniors will take, current seniors will take the SAT this year in April. And then we had a lot of testing this fall because the juniors took the PSAT, the NMSQT test in October. And then our current seniors, if you recall last year, the SAT was a graduation requirement, a state requirement for them. But as that was taken off the table because of COVID, they were provided the opportunity. So no longer a requirement, but the opportunity to take it this fall. And they did. And where typically we would report out on those results of things, we haven't gotten everything back. Although I will say that we did get the results of our SAT last Friday. So it was after we'd submitted this presentation, but we do have great news to share on that as well. So we just started to get those results and do some of that work with our department chairs in disseminating that data for our instructional planning. So we had 182 seniors participate, which is about 82% of our students. And just to share a quick preview, for the evidence-based reading and writing, we had an overall score, a mean score of 553. And last year it was only 546. So yay, we're amazing. So that was 77% of our students meeting or exceeding the benchmark, which I just think is tremendous despite everything that's going on. And there was a lot of anxiety of coming in and taking in-person testing, and particularly because they had planned on taking it last year. And then for the math section, we had an overall mean score of 550 with 59% meeting or exceeding the benchmark, where last year it was 545. So we have seen an increase in both the evidence-based reading and writing as well as the math for our SATs. And once we can kind of dive into that data a bit more, we are happy to share the additional results and what we're planning on doing with that. So I think that might be everything, Dr. Kenworthy.
Yes.
So that's really awesome. I mean, so, you know, big round of applause to the teachers and the students and the administrators. And that's significant improvements, I think, that you're seeing in scores. I mean, it was, what was it? It was maybe 2 or 3 years ago where I think the high school decided that they really wanted to invest in the professional AP training for teachers, and I think you're really seeing that pay off. I mean, really, really nice.
I think, Emily, I think the purpose of professional development is always to try to make sure that whatever you're doing, it's benefiting the students in terms of their performance. If it's not benefiting the students with their performance, then it really isn't worth it. But we noticed that the collaboration that happens with the College Board AP online system, as well as attending institutes to help teach the curriculum better, and to give the students more deeper understanding of what they're learning, really has paid off. It's a huge investment on the part of the teachers. It takes a lot of patience and dedication to the curriculum. But as you know, particularly with the advanced placement curriculum, it's a standard curriculum throughout the nation. So it's comparing apples to apples, and our apples are just getting brighter and brighter. So they're just getting better. And it's a tribute to all the teachers that have really taken this seriously, and the hardworking students that really are dedicated to making this work. And so that is a plus for everyone involved, and it's really something to celebrate.
Yeah, very much so. And I think also, and then I'm making sure other committee members here have a chance to say, but the fact that 90% of the seniors do an AP class or an EEP, which is college credit level class. I mean, that was one of our goals, to really get, all of the seniors taking at least one,
Right.
And
So
it seems like you're very, very close to meeting that goal.
Yeah, we are. I think we're 10% away, and we're looking to expand to offer more opportunities for kids to take EEP courses. That and it's a struggle, because a lot of our we need to make partnerships with universities and colleges that want to make partnerships with our school, and we're continuing to look for opportunities where our interests in the college's ability to offer those opportunities coincide. And it's a win-win for the students, for sure.
Great. Well, let me see what Mr. Piero, I think you have your hand up there.
Yes, this is great information. I really appreciate and commend everyone for the work. Dr. Kenworthy, can we go back up to the AP scores, if you don't mind? Just so that we could see it and see trends and growth. And is there any way, and I'm not expecting expect anyone to know this information off the top of their head, but also see this information compared to previous years, and also seeing what like state and national scores, because just like you said, Principal Amaral, this is it's a national curriculum meeting national benchmarks. So being able to see that information would be super helpful, and if anything, just highlight even more the work that the school's been doing.
I think we have, the College Board has not released to us the composite scores, but we're waiting to have that information. That's one of the things that we were looking for, to be honest with you, but it's not there yet. So once we have that information, we'd be happy to share it with Assistant Superintendent Viveros and to present to you so you have a better understanding.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
The pictures are in a narrow window here, so if anybody else has a question, just jump in. But not seeing that. Okay, so seeing no additional questions here. Again, thank you very, very much for putting this together. I think it's really wonderful information. Do we have that on a dashboard at the high school, or is that also being put on a dashboard somewhere, kind of the achievements?
We will, we'll probably highlight, we wanted to give you the first look at it. So we're hoping to be putting it not only on our website, but also on our newsletter that we send out every week. Great. To parents and students, to celebrate the accomplishments really that they have done and the work that they've done together to make it a positive experience for our students.
And particularly with COVID last March, that just added a huge, I think, roller coaster bump for everybody. So
it is. And I think a lot of kids think that, a lot of people feel like our kids aren't resilient and have a certain amount of determination. But one of the things I was very proud of with our students last year is that they really stuck with it and really took it seriously. And it showed in the results that we had, where a lot of students maybe fell off in other districts based on my conversation with colleagues of not attending, not working hard, not providing that stamina that provides that really strong resilience for them to be successful in future life. Our students, with the encouragement of our teachers, really stuck with it and made a difference. So we're really proud of them. And I think I can be sincere in telling you that if we continue with that path with this year's seniors, I think you're going to be even more surprised at the quality of work that's coming out in next year's results.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Can I have a motion for approval of school committee minutes, please?
I move for the approval of the school committee meeting minutes of October 27th and the executive session meetings of the same night.
Second.
All right, any comments, discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Ms. McDade?
Aye.
Mr. Payero?
Aye.
Mr. Ferber?
Aye.
Mr. Vadney?
Aye.
Mr. Shears?
Aye.
Emily Copeland? Aye. Unanimous, 6-0. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Calling a roll call vote. Ms. McDade?
Aye.
Mr. Payero?
Aye.
Mr. Ferber?
Aye.
Mr. Vadney?
Aye.
Mr. Shears?
Aye.
Emily Copeland? Aye. Unanimous. Moving on to our business agenda.
I move for
Item
discussion
one,
and
please.
I move for discussion and action on the allocation of school safety capital funds.
Second.
Dr. Kenworthy?
Thank you. So I'm asking tonight for just the school committee's approval on the allocation of, it's a total of $33,436. This is money that had already previously been allocated to a school safety capital fund. And it was money that was allocated for the 2019-20 school year. Either some of the projects came in below estimate, or obviously it was a year of a lot of transitions between my transition to the role and COVID. And, we've kind of shifted focus with our major capital plan as well, as you know. So, as we started this school year, we identified that this money was still available. So we brought our district safety committee together to review the projects and determine, in some cases it was kind of a shift in where our priorities needed to lie. And then we did bring that through the capital subcommittee as well once those projects were identified. So again, tonight I'm just asking for approval from the full school committee.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, call for a roll call vote. Ms. McDade?
Aye.
Mr. Payero?
Aye.
Mr. Ferber?
Aye.
Mr. Shears?
Aye.
Mr. Vadney?
Aye.
Emily Copeland? Aye. Approved, unanimous, 6-0. Business item B is not a vote, just a motion for discussion.
Sure, this is on for just discuss and review. We had been keeping you abreast of the generator at Portsmouth Middle School, which was already identified as being old, and we knew it was coming up on the end of its life. So I believe Mr. Dioro just wanted to give you a final update on that project.
Thank you. So yes, just wanted to make you aware that we did get approval from the state for housing aid reimbursement on this project. So we're hoping to have it bid out in January and have it completed before June. And it's about a $337,000 budgeted project, and we should get 40% reimbursement on that because we get the 35% plus 5% for health and safety, which would be $135,000 worth of housing aid reimbursement to the town.
Good deal.
Great. What happens if the generator goes between now and when it gets replaced? Do we have a plan in place?
Yes, this particular generator actually died once before, and we had a major repair done to it. But during that time, we did rent a portable generator that we could hook up for emergency purposes. It provides very little electricity, but enough to make sure that the building is safe.
Okay, great. Any other, so we don't have to approve anything here, but we appreciate knowing that we got the money.
Yes.
All right, moving on to the policies. Ms. McDade, do you want to move these?
Sure. I move for discussion and action on reporting board meeting business policy. That's BEDK, and this is our final read.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Payero.
quick question, and this is could be more of clarification for items C through E. The top says school board governance. I'm not sure if it's a matter of probably semantics and anything else, but should it read school committee versus school board, since that is the official name of the body?
Yeah, it probably should. That's so, yeah.
Yeah, we can make that change. And I think that the national organization uses the school board designation. So it's probably just transferred over, but I can make.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
and
says school committee throughout the rest of the policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just
The change in the wording itself.
do we need a motion? You want to move that, Mr. Payo, so that we can make that change, or do
So
we
moved.
can just do it? So moved. Can I have a second from Mr. Shears, just in case that we need to do that. So Ms. McDade,
Aye.
Mr. Payero,
aye.
Mr. Ferber,
Aye.
Mr. Shears,
Aye.
Mr. Vadney,
Aye.
Emily Copeland, aye, unanimous for all three policies to make the school board, school committee. Any questions on the policy itself? There were no changes made, right?
It's the last meeting, right?
Right.
Right. All right, seeing no questions, calling a vote. Ms. McDade,
Aye.
Mr. Payero,
Aye.
Mr. Ferber,
Aye.
Mr. Shears,
Aye.
Mr. Vadney,
Aye.
Emily Copeland, aye, unanimous 6-0. Item D, please.
I'd like to move for discussion and action on the minutes policy, BEDG.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, sorry we have to do these in person, the roll call votes, but I guess because we're on Zoom, we need to do this individually. So calling the vote, Ms. McDade,
Aye.
Mr. Payero,
Aye.
Mr. Ferber,
Aye.
Mr. Shears,
Aye.
Mr. Vadney,
Aye.
Emily Copeland, aye, unanimous 6-0. Business E, please.
I move for discussion and action of the board member professional development opportunities policy, BIB.
Second.
Questions, discussion? None. Calling the vote. Ms. McDade,
Aye.
Mr. Payero,
Aye.
Mr. Ferber,
Aye.
Mr. Shears,
Aye.
Mr. Vadney,
Aye.
Emily Copeland, aye, unanimous 6-0. And just a reminder to the public, we read through these policies at least twice, and many of them are routine updates and name changes. I don't think any of these had substantial revisions to them. So, and these policies are all posted on our website. Okay, thank you very much. That concludes the business portion. Moving on to financial reports, Mr. Diro.
Sure. So you have the October 2020 financial report. Obviously, it's early in the year, but two things I did want to point out to you. The first, if you went through the revenue section of the report, you probably noticed we had almost no revenue in the month. That really was just the town managing its cash position, and we did not receive any of our state aid or the town appropriation for the month. However, we did not need it, and we will receive that in November. So just wanted to make sure I pointed that out. That was not a mistake. It was a purposeful cash management decision. And then secondly, we do have in expenditures some items that are over budget. I've listed them out. I won't go through all of them, but the one that I wanted to bring to your attention the most was the potential for statewide transportation. We did receive a projection from the state based on the current students that are in statewide that we could be looking at about $250,000 budget overrun on that line. And I would point out to you that the main reason for that really the two main reasons for that are one, Rhode statewide contract also ran out last year, and they went out to bid and absorbed about a 30% price increase. And then the way they allocate costs is based on ridership, and due to obviously COVID, there are less students in vans and buses, so the cost per student is going up. So I'm sure there'll be some favorable items as we get further into the year on certain things, perhaps utilities, who knows. But I did want to point that out because that is something that is sitting out there and could be a potential large miss.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Mr. Shears.
Yeah, I was wondering, with the cost going up so much, has the state ever looked at doing it in-house? We're a small state. We're not even a large county of doing it, because it seems like the vendors are putting, in other words, being not too favorable to us with these costs, and it seems to be we're at their mercy. So I would hope that somebody would be looking at other alternatives, because this is getting to be very extreme, in my opinion.
So do we, as far as I know, there's no discussion at the state level of moving it in-house.
Well, they should, to save some money, at least to look at it. The state should get off their duff and take a look at some of these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Comments? Yeah, and I think it's also interesting to note the state's only paying 91.7% of state aid allocations too. So, you know, that's another, hopefully we'll be made whole on that, but another potential concern.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so we don't need to vote on that, but thank you very much for providing the report. Before we adjourn here, just a note on upcoming meetings, a reminder to the committee members, particularly those who were recently elected and re-elected, that the swearing-in ceremony is December 7th. And then our organizational meeting will be on the 15th of December, and we hope to do that in person, but we wanted to abide by also the policy in the district right now that if we can have meetings virtually, we should have meetings virtually. So that's why we're doing this all on Zoom this time. So thank you all very much for coming. And with that, can I have a motion for adjournment, please?
Move for adjournment. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, second.
Okay, moved, seconded with a happy Thanksgiving to all, correct. I'd like to call the motion, please. Ms. McDade?
Aye.
Mr. Ferber?
Aye.
Mr. Shears?
Aye.
Mr. Vadney?
Aye.
Mr. Piero?
Aye.
Emily Copeland? Aye. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming, and hope to see you again.
You.
Bye.
Aye.